Jerry Fox's film follows them from recording studios to a one-off gig at Goldsmiths College to mark this occasion.
I remember watching the South Bank show on the Smiths round at Graham's house, and then Morrissey said something at the end. He said that the Smiths were the last important band, and I just got so pissed off with that, and I walked all the way home just sort of determined to prove him wrong. It's just really pathetic, isn't it? I also had a little fantasy that if I ever got on the South Bank show, I'd say the same thing as him. Now the moment has arisen, I just can't bring myself to be that sort of I don't know, petty really.
Of course we survive. We're very resilient like anybody else. We're not daft enough to self-destruct. I think we know that music isn't everything, and it's not worth dying for. There's other shit going on. There's a lot more worthy of attention.
We're all much too proud to admit that we rely on each other, but we do. It's got more to do with working hard than being a genius. It's the thing that gets me. I thought you just had to be a genius.
We can all do good stuff on our own. It takes the four of us together to be this good. You know, we all need each other. Which is probably why we all hate each other as well, you know.
Everything about Britain in the mid-90s, from Cool Britannia to the Spice Girls, the Oasis-Blur feud, if not caused by Parklife, certainly Parklife is absolutely integral, and Blur were absolutely integral in that process. Also, they've just made, pound for pound, the best British pop records of the 90s.
I just realised, even though I haven't been on this train for maybe 2 years or something, that I know every single detail of this track. Could almost kind of give you a commentary of it with my eyes closed all the way up to Colchester.
Sometimes I think you've gone insane, talking to myself and to that very card. And I'd like to see just how it's taken to teach you, and it's even cut into your pretty hair, pretty hair. Did I say it once and now I'm talking about it go? Would you please leave me alone? Can't say I wanna be my own. Can't say I wanna be my own.
Yeah.
Something else.
Again and again and again. Hey, hey, come
came across Graham in the pubs in Colchester. He was a committed drinker, and I was too. The Colchester music scene, such as it was very incestuous anyway, and pretty much everybody had played in bands with pretty much everyone else, so it was only really a matter of time, I think, before we all came across each other anyway. And Alex was the odd man out, really, because he was in Bournemouth. Nobody really came across him until Graham went to college.
I'm gonna get this again and again and again. Hey, hey, come out tonight. Hey, hey, come out tonight.
Well, this is Goldsmiths College, alma mater, the hallowed seat of learning. Graham was doing a fine art course here. I was doing French, and Damon used to come, and I think he was doing a musical composition course here, but really just to hang out. But it was quite an exciting place to be at the time. There was a group of artists, probably led by Damien Hirst, who were starting to grab headlines.
Most of my time at Goldsmiths was spent discussing silk cut adverts and how outrageous they were, which got to be a little bit tiresome. But there were some good people there.
They've always been an art school band. This is, in a way, like all kinds of people from Pink Floyd to punk rock, Malcolm McLaren. This is the great English art school kind of pop tradition.
Looks good.
Taking a fun out of everything, making it clear when I don't want to think. It's taking me up when I don't want to go up anymore. Just watching it all. There's no other way. There's no other way. All that you can do is watch them play. There's no other way. There's no
I remember the second single, There's No Other Way, which was a top 10 hit, coming down to the studio, hearing it halfway through the recording and going, that sounds like a top 10 hit, which I think is the only time I've ever done that in the studio ever. And it was, and it did.
It was very different times because the concept of a band like Blur selling 1 million albums would just seem ludicrous at that time. It just didn't exist. You know, getting a gold record of 100,000 albums was, you got the champagne out. Ultimately, this changed with the release of Parklife in 1994.
watch you play. Watch you play.
On the first album, a lot of the songs, as you can imagine, for a lot of bands, are played live before they're actually recorded. So in those instances, they will often be bringing in a song that they have played in some form or other for a few months.
Confidence is a preference for the habitual voyeur of what is known as. And morning think about violin, take a route straight through what is known as. John's got Brewer's truth, he gets intimidated by the day, pigeons say, love a bit of it. Who's that got Lord Marshall? You should cut down on your polo. Get some exercise. All the people, so many people, and they all go hand in hand through their life.
I think Parklife was London Fields. I'd moved to West London and I read that book and I think from an outsider's view that was kind of a very spiritual book. It was full of references to particular places, particular pubs. It was my Bible for 12 months and I wrote an album about it really. had such an effect on people because it was a snapshot of a country. It captured, in some way, everything that was going on.
It's got nothing to do with the lost blackbirds they're thinking of. Animated joggers who go round, around, 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 around. All the people, the so many people, that make go hand in hand.
It's perhaps difficult now at fag end of Britpop, how significant it was for a group to come forward saying we want to celebrate traditional English kind of subcultural values of being a bit sarky, a bit lively, a bit smart. Parklife was the quintessential pop artifact of that time.
And into the sea goes pretty England to me, round the Bay of Biscay, a bag for tea. In traffic on the Dogger Bank, then up the Thames to find a taxi rank, sail on by with the tide, go to sleep. And the radio says, this is our love, but it won't hurt you when you're alone. There will be down with you, finding ways to stay so low.
This Is a Low is basically a kind of psychedelic Edward Lear, John Lennon trip around the English or the British coast using BBC Radio 4's shipping forecast, which, you know, I'm sure many people will be familiar with, Dogger, Viking, all those places, using that as a kind of, as a template or a narrative structure.
Fast enough, dear. And on the Marin heads, black pollards, blue and red, and the Queen, she's gone round the bend, jumped off Land's End.
I suppose, you know, it's just the way when I was growing up, I saw the coast really like this, grey and not unfriendly, but just melancholy really. So, good place to start that song here. I suppose everything did change after that record. I mean, we didn't make the record thinking that we'd hit on a magic formula. So it was a surprise, and I think everyone in the band reacted to it differently. That sense of being in a very exclusive little gang changed somewhat.
That much attention doesn't, you know, it means you can become you can become a monster and get away with it. You can just afford to become a very selfish person, you know, when you're in the coolest band in the world.
It didn't ultimately change the reason why we were in a band together, because we like playing together and we like experimenting. That's what it's always been about. It's always been about Graham and me listening to lots of different kind of music and then trying to make some sort of a coalition party.
We took it as far as we could go, like a horse, until it dropped dead. And we were well aware when it was dead. And it pretty much coincided with Damon starting to enjoy a bit more of the music that I'd been liking.
Beat a bomb. What you done? She's your gun. Now what you done? You beat a bomb.
started realising that maybe there is some worth in kind of jamming, and we'd always had a bit of a laboratory approach to recording before. I think we just left more space. We were no longer putting funny rhubarb and custard keyboard sounds and backing vocals that weren't particularly required anymore.
I still haven't worked out what I'm doing, so the album Blur was just another example of me not really knowing where I was going and who I am.
Britpop had appeared, and it had come to represent a kind of election manifesto. No right-thinking, subversive rock and roll animal wants to be making government-sanctioned music. You know, so we just thought we just had to get as far away from that as possible, really. We just said, well, no more fucking brass, and we let our hair down a bit, really.
And when she lets me slip away, she tells me all my I just slip away, and I am gone.
I think that's what I've sort of learned, and why kind of things work a lot better for me now, is that I can separate stuff, you know, that I do write too much music to just put it all into the band. I don't think it's fair either, because I think a lot of it really doesn't lend itself to what is good about Blur as four people.
I mean, I do most of the artwork on this anyway, and they kind of this sort of thing, but like that's how it kind of turned out. The sketches that went towards the cover of 13 from the painting over the other side of the room. And it was going to be the cover to Tender first of all, but then they liked the other one better for Tender, this one, so it got swapped around.
Damon's writing has improved so much over the last few years, and I think with confidence comes the desire to not hide behind so many different characters and actually write more in the first person, which in fact is what he's doing now. And I can't understand people kind of criticise. I mean, in fact, there was a letter recently in the NME, someone criticising Damon for writing about his breakup that has been an influence behind an album. And I just thought, how can you be critical of someone? You know, the relationships have always been a great influence behind writing.
For a while was really difficult with this record, is that it sort of started to become so preoccupied with my ex-relationship. It's the real problem with being involved with someone who is also in the same business or is in a similar business with similar kind of profile to yourself, is that everything becomes personal. You know, you can't possibly avoid it. If you anything you do is in some way linked to that, so and everything gets very distorted. And I think, you know,
this always generates a lot of musical voltage, a bit of love, a bit of a love rumble.
More organic record maybe than any of our other records, but all the experimenting really for me is done while I'm writing the songs.
Just takes things and he just distorts things. He just likes to turn things around a little bit and add an extra element.
Well, our biggest hit ever. I heard that Robbie Williams is ending his shows with Song 2, and the majority of the audience there probably think that he wrote it now, you know, which is a bit annoying.
Song 2 was huge because it's completely unsophisticated and thuggish, and that's what basically people like.
That's not my problem. That's not my problem.
I mean, basically it all comes down to good songs. It doesn't matter how you present good songs, really. There'll always be good songs. You know, you don't care what a pretty girl's wearing, do you?
We really have lived through all the cliches. I mean, we're the indie Spinal Tap, really. I mean, we've done it all, you know.